Today we are going to be looking at evaluating expressions. So in order to evaluate, to find the value of expressions, you need to substitute in for each variable. Otherwise, you would be simplifying expressions and combining the like terms to make it as small as possible. What we have to remember to use is order of operations. So I have a love-hate relationship with PEMDAS. It's great because it helps you kind of remember the order, but a lot of times we mix up the multiplying and dividing and the adding and subtracting. So remember it. These go left to right. So let's look at this first expression. You've got x equals, evaluate each expression if x equals -9 and y equals -3. So basically, we are plugging in these values. I'm plugging in -9 wherever I see x, and I'm plugging in -3 wherever I see the y. You got to be really careful here because you've got these negatives, you've got these subtractions, and you have to make sure you're paying extra close attention there. So right here, I'm still going to include this negative sign or this opposite sign, whatever you want to consider it, and then I'm going to put the y in parentheses, -3, minus our x value of -9 squared. So when we are evaluating, order of operations says before I do any multiplying, any adding, any subtracting, I'm going to do the exponents. So first thing that I have to do is first I am going to do -9 squared. So -9 times -9 is +81. And then I'm going to bring everything else down. Minus -3 minus. Now, just like we've done in the past, I'm going to be kind of going through and circling and combining any values that I can. So I see minus negative. Whenever I see that minus a negative, remember that that means plus a positive. So when I'm looking at this, I have a +3 and a -81. They are opposites, so we're going to find the difference, which is 78. There were 3 positives, there were 81 negatives, so it is a negative value. All right, let's look at the next one. Again, this negative in front of the x I'm rewriting. Where the x is, I'm plugging in -9, bringing down the minus, bringing down the negative next to the y, and then I'm actually going to kind of make those parentheses slightly different because I'm still going to plug in my y in parentheses, -3, so that we see exactly where we plugged this in. The x is plugged in here, the y is plugged in here, and everything else is the same. So now order of operations, we've got a lot of negatives, we've got a lot of subtraction. So first thing that I'm going through and I'm doing is I am changing when I see minus a negative. So minus a negative, I know that means plus a positive, okay? And inside the parentheses here, minus a negative means plus a positive. So if I rewrite that, I have plus +9 is just 9, minus right here plus +3. So we have 9 minus 3, which is 6. Got to be really careful. These negatives can really get you. All right, number 3, we have different values here. X is -12, Y is 4, and Z is -10. So I'm plugging in here. We've got our Z, which is -10, minus our X value of -12, minus our Y, minus negative Y value of 4. So it didn't really matter how I did those parentheses. I'm just trying to clearly show that where I'm plugging in the Y is right here. So I rewrote everything else. Now I'm going through. We've got lots of negatives here, so I'm going to be really, really careful. So I see negative 10 is just going to stay negative 10. I see minus negative, which becomes plus a positive, so plus 12. And then again, I see minus negative, which becomes plus a positive, so plus 4. Now we're going to look at this. We've got negative 10, positive 12, positive 4. So I'm going to go left to right. Negative 10 plus positive 12, they're opposite, so we find the difference. There were more positives. Bring down the plus 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. All right, number 4. Again, this is one, if you want to put a star next to it, there will be one like this on the assessment, and I'm going to say it now, many people make mistakes on it, so please pay extra close attention as we're plugging this in. So I have my negative, I'm plugging in my x value, which is negative 12 squared, over our y value of 4. Order of operations says the first thing I need to do is I need to do those exponents. The most common mistake people will make is they'll say, well, x is negative 12, it's negative x, so the negative of negative 12, or the opposite of negative 12 is positive 12, and then square that. No, because that negative 1 really means, or that negative sign really means negative 1 times x squared, and we have to do exponents before we multiply by negative 1. So when I'm doing that, I'm keeping my negative sign, and then my simplified x value, negative 12 squared, is positive 144 over the denominator of 4. So now we have negative 144 divided by 4, which equals, goes in 36 times, and it's a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative result. All right, some more examples. We've got 6x squared over 5y. So again, I'm plugging in these values up here. So 6 times our x value of negative 10 squared over 5 times our y value of negative 3. Again, before multiplication, we have to do exponents, so I'm not going to multiply 6 times negative 10. First thing I'm doing is I'm doing negative 10 squared. So negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100. So it's going to be 6 times 100 over 5 times negative 3. Now I'm going to multiply each before I divide. So 6 times 100 is 600. Over 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And then when we divide, we get 40. It was a positive divided by negative is a negative. Okay, plugging in for number 6. I've got negative x of negative 10 minus 4 times our y value of negative 3 plus 7 times our z value of 9. So if I go through and I just kind of circle what we're looking at, slightly different than what we had been doing. I've got my first value here, my next set here, my next set here. So in that first set, we have minus a negative, which is plus a positive, so we have positive 10. In this set, we have negative 4 times negative 3, which is positive 12. And then here we have positive 7 times positive 9, which is positive 63. And then all we're doing is adding. So 10 plus 12 is 22, plus 63 is going to be 75. All right, number 7. Plugging in, if x is 65, y is negative 128.2. And we're letting you guys use calculators here to help you, so the decimals really shouldn't be that tricky to add in here. So I'm plugging in negative y value of negative 128.2 plus our x value of 65. So when I'm looking at this, kind of split into those two parts, we've got minus negative, which makes a positive. So positive 128.2 plus a positive 65. Those are both positives. We add those together and we get 193.2. Number 8, sorry about that. Plugging in. This time we have the multiplication in the parentheses. So we have A, I'm going to actually kind of group this, our A value of negative 2.5 times our B value of 16 in the parentheses, and then that is squared, over our C value of 2 times our A value of negative 2.5. So what you have to be careful with here is, though exponents come before multiplication, we have to do these parentheses first. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two. So we've got negative 2.5 times 16, which is negative 40. I'm bringing down the squared because we haven't used that yet, over since this is just on the bottom, I can actually simplify this right now. 2 times negative 2.5, which is negative 5. Next up, before I do any division, I need to do my exponents now. Negative 40 squared is negative 16, sorry, not negative, positive 1,600 over our denominator of negative 5. And then if I divide that, I get 320. It was a positive divided by a negative, which is a negative result. All right, 2 more, and this time we're throwing in some trickier things, some fractions, and some absolute value signs. So when we have a number right next to a parentheses like that, that means multiplication. So we're doing 3 times our h value of 4 1/6 plus our j value of 3 over 2. So first thing that I'm going to do, I have to solve with or evaluate within the parentheses first. I'm adding fractions, I need common denominators. So we're doing 4 1/6 plus the common denominator is 6. So times 3, 9, 6. So then I'm going to add within the parentheses 4 1/6 plus 9/6 is 4 10/6. Which I could make this into, this is improper, we could make it into a mixed number, but to multiply anyways, I need it to be improper, so I'm actually going to go straight to turning it into an improper fraction. So this is going to be 3 over 1, sorry, I wrote that weird, times our improper fraction. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 10 is 34 over 6. When we are multiplying, the first thing I'm going to look at is simplifying my diagonals. The 3 and the 6 simplify. 3 divides by 3 to become 1. 6 divides by 3 to become 2. So I get 34 over 2, which is equal to 17. And last one, we're throwing in some absolute value signs, seeing if we remember how to work with those. So plugging in our p-value of -2 plus absolute value of our q value, I think that says 5, 6, times our p-value of -2, and I'm going to write it over 1 since it's fractions that need to be multiplied. So before we do any absolute value, first thing I need to do is simplify within that absolute value sign because it's like a parentheses, it's grouping symbols. So when I'm multiplying, I can simplify the 6 and the 2. The 6 becomes, divided by 2 is 3. -2 divided by 2 is -1. So 5 times -1 is -5 over 3 times 1 is 3. So we've got -2 plus the absolute value of -5 over 3. Absolute value is always going to be positive, so the absolute value of -5 over 3 is +5 over 3. So -2 plus +5 over 3. Well, this is -2 over 1. To make it into common denominators, we need to turn this into thirds, so times 3. So -6 over 3 plus +5 over 3. They are opposites, so we're finding the difference, which is 1/3. There are more negatives than positives, so it is a negative result.